Hey, thanks for clicking on this video. Be sure to hit subscribe and hit the bell to receive all notifications, because just hitting subscribe doesn't mean anything. Thought I would do a quick little lesson in drawing, adding depth to your backgrounds. I had somebody ask about that, backgrounds and things, and several people mentioned things about backgrounds. So especially if you're just laying out things, I want to show you something real quick here. So let's say we got first thing you need to know is you get three levels of depth, right? You've got your background. And why is that purple? Why is that purple? All right, so you've got your background way back there. And then you've got your midground. And then you've got your foreground. Everybody pretty much knows that. That's pretty basic. So once you get into coloring and laying out things, and we're going to do this in gray because it's the easiest way to visualize it. Simplest way without values and hues and things getting in the way. So we're gonna make a new layer here. We're gonna use the you can use any I'm gonna use the concept brush, but you can use any level of gray or dark or whatever. The concept brush is nice, but you can use any kind of pressure sensitivity or gray marker. It doesn't really matter. So if we want to, let's say, have a tree, we're going to have a tree. And I'll actually ink it in first. So here's our, oops, not on that layer though. The tree is going to be in our midground, all right? So we got a little tree here growing, a little Bob Ross tree, except he's not going to have a friend because he's alone in the world. All right, so we got our tree here. Growing there in the midground, and we'll have the leaves or whatever. Okay, so there's our midground. In the foreground, we'll have some bushes, maybe some rocks. I'm not going to overlap it a bit and erase that guy, because when you overlap, that means that kind of shows that the thing in the things are in front of each other, right? So here I'm going to get a little more in detail in a second. Okay, and then the background we're gonna leave there. So you can do this with different colors of gray, but especially if you're like just laying out pages, or you're storyboarding, or you're whatever you're doing, a quick and easy way to get that depth is, let's see, I'll keep that black for this. So we're gonna start in the foreground, and we're going to kind of do our colors for here, or our values, or just getting the values down, not the hue. That's why we're using this grays. And the bigger the brush, the more processing power it takes. All right, so, and then I'll go up here with white. And that's the nice thing about this particular brush. But again, if you have anything that has pressure sensitivity, you can do it. So here's some stuff here. There's just things growing, right? This is your foreground, right? And there's a little guy down there. He's hiding. Okay. So the midground, I'm gonna bring the values. Oop, I should make a different layer for that. Let's do that. So over here, I'm gonna have the light coming, say, from over here. So this will be the shadow. And the nice thing about this, I can select a gray, so it won't go any darker than that. But here your kind of focal point is really this tree. So it's gray, I'm pushing it a little further, maybe have some light coming in there. But the darker elements are up front. Now for the background, I'm gonna go very, very light, because the atmosphere washes out things. If you're ever in the mountains or have a good view of anything from a distance, you'll see that even if it's like you're in the city and the atmosphere makes things, it kind of blues it out, but it's just kind of obscuring a little bit. So here's our, maybe there's some trees, or it could be mountains. It doesn't really matter. See, even if I wanted to get way back there, I could go even lighter, and there's a mountain way back there in the background. And even that's too dark, so we're going to go even lighter there. So I'm going to take away those words. So even with that little bit of super quick, what's up, Buster's username over on Twitch? So so if you're going through and you just want to create some sense of distance real quick, keep those things in mind, right? And that's not getting into, like, you know, if I wanted to draw your attention to like some dude up there in the tree or whatever, you know, I could make a little darker here, and that's gonna look, his feet are hanging out, whatever, blah 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 blah. But in general, that's how you get your depth. So if you're, you know, laying out, storyboarding something, let's say, or you're laying out a comic panel, get your layer there. So let's say this is our panel, and we'll go up here, and I'm just gonna leave it all on black. So we got a little, this is our, maybe we got a guy here, right? And he's got his hands in his pockets, and he's in a crowd. You can still use that, you know, the crowd back there is still going to be a different hue. They could all be, sometimes you'll see in comic panels, they'll all be, the crowd will be colored one color, especially in old comics. They're all, you see, they're all back there, just the heads and things, and then maybe if somebody is, you know, up front, it would be even darker. And a lot of times you'd see like this foreground person, these people. Now it looks like he's talking to him, but it could be even just people walking by. But he's still the focus, right? These guys could be blue. That could be like these people back here could be a lighter blue or purple or something. But just with those different values of foreground, midground, background, you know, there's people walking back here, and that guy's our focus. So that's kind of how, that's your little art tip for the day before we get into some just basic drawing. How to establish very simply foreground, midground, background really quickly, in order to, you know, it's just kind of a quick shorthand, especially when you're laying things out. So there you go.